Let's start a new little video in my new watercolor journal that I made. Put a video up. This is the single sheet of watercolor paper, jigsaw origami folded. It takes all of about 15 minutes to do one. I'm going to smear some water on here. This is good Fabriano cold press 140-pound paper. And since I've been wanting to get back to my watercolor roots, I thought this would be a real good opportunity. I need a paper towel. Oh well, this is dirty, but it'll do. Boy, is it ever. I'm going to wipe up. I've got a page here so that I don't get the preceding page wet. I'm going to use a cute little 7 Gypsies clip to hold that one flat. And I'm going to let that cogitate just a little bit. Ooh. And I have 2 colors of Twinkling H20s. I have Teal Zircon and I have Meridian Blue. I also have a book that I've saved for the day when I felt like delving back into watercolor seriously. This is the Tao of Watercolor, and it's just a real loose style. Isabie. Spray it around, get some movement. Nice paper has a watermark on each sheet. I think that's awesome. I want to get some movement. And then go back in, drop in just a little more dark. And just let that sit. It's a good idea to connect your darks if you can. Spray that a little more. Whoops, y'all can barely see me. Could have put some washi tape down, that would have helped a little. And then I'm going to put in some of the teal. And I'm going to leave some white. White is good. When I started with watercolor, that was my very first medium. And I had no clue what I was doing, and I started, of course, with something that was way difficult. I don't think I started any of my mediums on the beginner side, and don't do that to yourself if you're thinking about there it is. Some salt. and a little bit of, just because I can, a little bit of alcohol. This is 91% isopropyl alcohol, and I've got it in a mini mister. I just love what that does. Drop in just a little more dark. Okay, now we've got some interesting stuff going on. I'm going to stop this and leave this to dry. I'm going to take it outside in the sun and let it dry naturally. Alrighty. My book exploded while I was out there. There. We were going to determine if you got a better view if I zoomed. I got some great texture with the salt and the alcohol. The alcohol spots are a little bit softer. The salt spots, there's some salt left. The salt makes a little bit more of a snowflake look. And what that does, excuse me, the salt pushes the pigment away. So I did a video where I showed plastic wrap scrunched up. That gives you linear lines like organic tree roots and stuff. But it does the same thing. Where the saran wrap hits the paper, it pushes the pigment or the color away from where it touches so that it forces it to pool in interesting patterns. And that's what the salt does. And in essence, that's what the alcohol does too, is it pushes, the alcohol pushes the water which contains the pigment out of the way. And the two colors that I use, I think I sucked some salt down my throat. The two pigments I used play beautifully together. So I'm waiting for, well, let's see, actually I can go ahead and do this. I'm getting another H2O reconstituted. And now I want some of the primary elements. And this is my favorite color, Bolivian blue. Now this little ceramic pot, or ceramic palette, I got at Hobby Lobby a couple weeks ago for a couple bucks. And primary elements is a powder, and it does not have binder. Watercolor typical binder is gum arabic. So I've got this gum arabic, it's by Winsor Newton, and just a little bit of that should do the trick. What the binder does is the binder makes the powdered pigment anchor to the paper, where without a binder, the dye part of this color would soak into the paper, but the mica particles in this powder might brush off if it were going to get brushed. So that's the theory. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I want some more water in this. I've got an older brush. This one has been used for acrylics, and you see it does not come to a point where the finer watercolor brush does come to a point. These you don't want to use with acrylic based stuff. I want a brush that doesn't come to a point because I want to splatter it. First thing I'm going to do is wet. Move this back where you can see it. And beautiful color. Going to put a sheet under here. And what did I do with my, oh, here's my clip. The wind was helping me outside. There. In there. Now just get the brush real wet and hit it on my finger. You don't need a special tool or a special brush. Now let's see what we've got in the purple. This is Periwinkle. And let's see, a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of salt, I want some more periwinkle. Okay, back outside with it. So this is something new for me on the iPad Pro and my new Apple Pencil. This is something I've done before, which is the Chart Pack blender, because it has acetone in it. It's the only one apparently that has acetone. So I printed this, and you know, it takes me a couple times to get a print, but I used this one to make sure that it was going to transfer, and it does. So I printed this one backwards, okay, reverse. And I'm taking my marker, and I forgot and started it, so there's my start. And once you get it good and wet, you can see where you're going. Now this is a laser print. I don't think this will work with inkjet. Just keep wetting it. Hopefully I'll get an image. Not much. That's because it's watercolor paper and it has texture. Well, you never know. Alrighty. I've left this alone for a few days because I knew that it had to be fixed. But a lot of my viewers love to see my goofs and messes and all that. So, anyway, I'm going to zoom it in for you. And what happened here was that I was A, working on a blue background, and B, some of the color lifted, which gave me a very muddy looking face. So I think the best way to fix this baby is to come in with my Ceramcoat Ceramcoat Flesh. You see that? And I'm just going to, okay, here's part of the dilemma. This was a transfer using a black and white laser print and the Chart Pack blender. So this will cover a lot of the detail from the transfer. Carry that flesh tone on up into the part in her hair. I'm going to carefully go in. I need a little bit of water. I'm going to sneak up on this because it could be that if I hit the lighter spots and leave the shadowy spots alone, that it will be okay, and then this face might come to life. And I can come back in with a micron pen or my, you know what, that is so rough, I'm not going to use this good new Princeton brush. How about that? I'm not going to use that one or that one. This one. This is an old, for painting washes. This must be some of the brushes I got from Target. And they've been really nice to have on hand. I like them. And the price is right. It's like $20 for a whole set and a brush carrier, which I never use. But anyway, I'm very thin, very light touch, and I'm just going over the areas that would be light. A little bit of Rembrandt lighting there on that cheek. Now, Rembrandt lighting, for those of you who don't know, the old masters only had windows for light source, or candles. So they would set their models up near a window, and the side closest to the room, the side away from the window, would be darker. So if the light was coming from here, it would hit this side of the face pretty strong, and then on this side of the face there would just be a little triangle of light, and that was what Rembrandt considered to be the optimum lighting. I'm really just kind of glazing over the top of this. Which is fine because this is just a journal to get me working on things that I really enjoy, and that would be faces. And I am getting lots and lots of practice lately. See, doesn't that already look better? Again, I didn't cover up everything. I just very lightly glazed. Easy fix. But that is a stopping point for many, many people where they would just look at it and not know how to fix it. So I consider it not a fix and not a goof. It just wasn't there all the way yet. Now I'm going to come back in with, this is a some Liquitex gesso. And just wipe that up. And I don't want a real wet brush, but I want to come in here with a little bit of this watered down gesso and just lighten the highlight areas just a little. I'm using these acrylics as if they were watercolor. A lot of artists do that. It's still considered water media. Okay. Maybe just a little bit more right here. And by using it very thin and watered down, the glazes will allow some of what's under to show. Doesn't take much. Well, while I've got this, I need to go ahead and do, that's too thin for that. Pay attention again to where the light is. Fingers come in very handy. Give it some life, some movement. A little bit of. Now I did not lose all of my detail, and I don't think I'm going to put any back in. Not too bad, not too bad. Whoa! This is the new pen that Sakura sent me. It's a Pentouch. It's white and it is 0.7 millimeter extra fine point. And I'm going to see, oh, that's too much. So just blot that with your finger. The eyes are not totally white. They're white on the side closest to the light, which is over here. The top edge, remember that the eyeball is a ball. So it's going to catch the light over here, the shadow over here, shadow here, shadow here. So that gives it form. Sometimes a little moisture line under right where the eyeball meets the eyelid. Just wanted a little bit. Now, what else do we want to do? I think what I want to do well, this is just a fun journal, so I'm going to wet the top edge of this really well. bigger brush straight out of the water. And I'm going to drizzle some gesso. Quite a lot on this brush. I'm going to spray it a little. Now, the reason I wanted to do that was because my composition, she ended up being, she's in the tic-tac-toe mean, or the center of the tic-tac-toe, which is one of the quote-unquote rules. This makes her look like she's running, running, like it's raining, and I like that because the water has picked up some of the pigment. And let's put some more. If a little bit's good, a lot's even better. I think that ought to do it. And if it goes anywhere you don't want it to go, just tip it. Blot it. Cool. Now I'm going to lay it flat and let the pigment do the work up here, or the gesso, because what's happening is it's finding its own path through the pattern of the paper, or the texture of the paper. I'll get it right in a minute. You see right here? Watercolor paper has a texture, and what it does is it captures the pigment and the color down in the valleys around that raised texture. So the raised texture can give you the luminous quality, and if it's a pigment that has sediment in it, and some do, watercolor paints especially, acrylics not so much, the sediment will fall into the grooves and the cracks in the paper, and that's what you're seeing right in here. And you get some very, very interesting effects if you just let the water do what it wants to do. And now I'm going to come back with a little more light around her eyes. Around her face, because it kind of faded a little bit when it dried it. And that's one reason I like using gesso for a lightener, is because it's not totally opaque when you have water with it. And as it dries, it will fade somewhat. Looking good, sis. There's a shadowy area right at the top of the eyes across the bridge of the nose, so you don't want that to be totally flat unless that's the look you're after. That's the look you're after, it's totally fine. And I'm wanting a little bit more pink. See if I have some pink out. And that's way too much pink. Just a little. About ready to declare victory on this one. I went and got my Micron. This one is a 0.25. And I was using it the other day on some things it didn't really like. I'm going to come back into those eyes and darken that up just a dab around that mark I made. And that one's a little bit too big. Got a little bit out of control. I've got white ink in this one, and I haven't used it in a while. There it goes. And this is a 0.3. Just a few dots makes an amazing difference. Come back. If y'all don't learn anything else from me, learn that this is a push and pull. You add something and then take it away. Add something, then take it away. And gradually, your final result will come through and you'll realize that, yeah, I added that white gesso in the eyes and it made the eyes not so black. So you come back with your black and restate it. Just a little bit more right here. And I don't like to draw the entire mouth line. In other words, a continuous line, just some broken dots will work great. Just make a few little dash lines in there. Alright, I'm going to sign this one and it's done. And I like what happened at the top. Really like that a lot. Alright. Victory! Oops, can you see it all? I was working away. I hope you could see it.